I need to get word to him that I'm okay. Not too many people were coming down after us. We were pretty much, Dan had always said, in case of an extreme emergency, go to a firehouse.
Sometime in the afternoon, I learned that there were 22 officers unaccounted for. I thought that the number must surely be higher. Turns out it only got higher by one, and that was John Perry. No one knew that John went down there.
I'm sure he went in there, determined to help, to do all he can, and have a great story to tell afterward. And from what I hear from Tim Pearson, whatever happened, happened quickly.
Where they found him was basically exactly where I said he would be. If he would have made it maybe another 20, 30 feet, he may have been able to make it out of the building.
I went back over toward the Chinatown firehouse, and I walked in and I went over to the room and I opened the door up, and I don't even recall what we said. We just looked at each other and we just grabbed each other and hugged each other. You know, it was a beautiful reunion.
Cried, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Mike Hurt and Paul Talty, Tommy Langone and Vinny Dan, Rodney Gillis, Walter Weaver, Jerome Dominguez, John Coughlin, Police Officer Suarez, Police Officer Morris Smith. They're not here anymore, and I don't understand why. That's the hardest thing, not knowing, you know, why.
When you talk about heroes, being on the field with those men and women on September the 11th is the greatest honor I have ever had in my life. And they are the true heroes of September the 11th. I was just graced to be there with them and to see how they performed. It was a great honor. It's a day I'll never forget.
This could not be Manhattan. There is no way this was Manhattan. White, ash, paper.
There were car fires burning everywhere. A lot of cars had been tossed just by the blast of the building coming down. Worked my way over to 6 engine. In 33 years, I've never seen firefighters look like that. They just had a blank, forlorn look on their face.
So I got down to where Frank Fellini was, and I walked over and I said, Frank, what do you want me to do? He said, what about Pete Gansey? What about Bill Feehan? And he said, we don't know. We just don't know. He says, but I do know. He says that Ladder 6 has been transmitting Maydays. He says, get a radio and find out how we can get these guys.
My first inclination was to find out who we still had. And I gave a roll call, and I was thrilled that all my guys were accounted for. Josephine Harris was okay. Lieutenant Mickey Cross from Engine 16 was accounted for. He was at the bottom of the pile. There was a fireman Bacon from Engine 39 that was down there, and a Lieutenant McGlynn from Engine 39. We heard over the radio that 2 members from Engine 39 were okay, but they were cut off.
James FDNY and Jeff Caniglio were on the floor below me. They had contacted me. Bob Bacon was with me. He was a little banged up.
I finally heard Lieutenant McGlynn calling for me. And since I was up in the air, I actually tapped him on the shoulder with my foot. I said, Jeff, are you okay? He's like, yeah. I was like, anything hit you? He's like, no, I don't think so. And he repeats the question to me. I was like, no, I don't think so.
We hugged each other and we were like, very excited that we weren't still alive.
I turn on the light, I'm like, okay. This beam's resting over here. This is resting on the door. Whoa, big hole. Move to the left.
And the door that I had opened had stopped the landing from falling on top of us.
Which basically saved us from getting squished.
For some reason, we were saved, and, and you wonder why, that it was you.
I couldn't move too well. I was pretty encased in, and kind of like being in an eggshell. That's the best way to describe it. So I was pushing, and the last place I pushed was above my head. I figured that would be the last, that would be the worst place, but I says, what the heck? So I pushed above, and the debris cleared. I tried my light. It didn't work, and then I realized my eyes were encased. I couldn't see. I couldn't open my eyeballs. I yanked my glove off, and I stuck my finger in my mouth, and I started peeling the debris away from my eyes, and I was able to open my eyes. And then I scraped the contacts on the light, and I turned the light, and the light went on. So now I had sight, and I had my light. So things were starting to look up.
My initial thought was, after the collapse had stopped, that, okay, let's dust ourselves off and continue down the stairs and continue out. And one of my guys yelled up, he says, it's no good. We can't get out. So I started giving out Mayday messages.
We weren't getting through to anybody. Talking to Chief Prunty, he was maybe 10 feet away from us. We can communicate with him without a radio. And he's like, I'm pinned, guys, and, I need to get out of here quick.
We couldn't get to him. He was telling us that he was dying. And we were telling him that, hang on, Chief, they're coming to get us. Even though I didn't really believe it, I wanted him to believe it, so he would be calmer. And then let him know that we were there so that he wasn't going to die alone.
We forced the door, crawled in basically as far as we could, but there was no way getting to him. So I talked to him and I said, hang in there, Chief, that the men are coming. But there wasn't much we could do.
And everybody's giving Maydays, and finally somebody responded.
And then I hear from Deputy Chief Nick Visconti, Operations Post Ladder 6, Operations Post Ladder 6. And I get on the air, this is Ladder 6, and Nick has an unmistakable voice.
Jay, we're gonna get you out. Just tell me where you are. Tell me what's going on. Now, at this time, there's 4 or 5 battalion chiefs around me. There's hundreds of firefighters standing there. And I said, where are you?
I'd say the North Tower B stairway, where I'm on between the 2nd and the 4th floors.
And everybody looked at me, because we knew there was no Tower 1. I said, okay, Jake, I need directions. I need you to help me out here. We're not too familiar with the building.
And I says, okay, we came in off of West Street. We went through the glass doors. We made a right, then our first left, and the B stairway's the first stairway on the left.
And it's somewhere during this conversation, somebody jumped in on the radio and said, where the hell is Tower 1?
I was thinking, this guy doesn't even know where the North Tower is.
I just kept talking. I didn't want him to, I didn't know what he knew. I didn't know what I should do, but I just said, I'll just keep going. I said, just tell me where you are within the building. He gave me a location. Okay. I said, I got people coming. We're gonna find you. We'll get you out of there.
We're coming to get you. But it's gonna be a while. So we just played the waiting game.
We had an ESU van burning a block away, blowing off ammunition. We had units coming in wanting to go in, so we're trying to corral them into a spot. And out of the crowd comes this, I didn't recognize him right away. This guy starts walking toward me, kind of a muscular guy wearing a blue jacket, a hard hat, and carrying a crowbar, and it's my brother Mike. My brother Mike's been retired a couple of years. And he says to me, he says, Bob, who's working? So I look at him, and I says, Mike, the Twin Towers fell down. Everybody's working. He's like, no. Joe, Tim, Matt, who's working? And believe it or not, for the first time, it was the first time I thought that, oh yeah, I saw Matt on the train station, but what about Joe and Tim? You're kind of trying to hold off panic, but I knew that we had to lose dozens, maybe hundreds of firefighters. We lost thousands of people, but I never really thought about that. My God, I must have lost tons of friends and maybe even my brothers.
I ran into my brother Mike, and we were so relieved to see each other. And the first thing I said is, "Did you see Bob?" And he acknowledged that he saw Bob. Tremendous amount of relief came over me right away. But somewhere along the line, I wanted to see Bob, too.
First thing that hits me at the site was silence. It was incredibly silent. We're not hearing pass alarms, which are the little alarms on the side of your bottle. We're not hearing screams, help. We're not hearing anything. I see my brother Joe. And I'm like, oh, thank God. He's like, oh, Bob, and we hug.
And I was relieved all over again.
He says, have you seen Tim? I says, no. I said, I saw Mike and I saw Matt this morning. But every SOC unit that was there, you hear him coming across as missing, 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 missing. Whole units, not people in the company, whole units.
Tim was with Squad 252, which is a special operations company.
He wasn't going to be happy with just an engine company or a truck company. He's going to have to be where everything happens. He's going to have to play with the toys and play with the tools. He's going to have to get all the training.
And even if Tim had gotten off early, for whatever reason, he would have turned around and went back. See, me and my brothers went to a lot of fires together. We all were on the job at the same time. We all recognized each other's voices in the smoke. My brother Mike, my brother Bob, my father, all of us. But Tim, when we would go to fires, there'd be tough spots that you'd try to get to, and Tim would already be there, finding the way out, knowing exactly which window to go into. He could squeak through like a snake. He could get past the dangerous situation and just say, how did you get there so fast? I thought I was doing pretty good.
Joe says, I talked to his guys. I'm like, yeah, and? He says, Tim was working. So we knew he was missing. My heart sunk, you know. But I also knew that I was part of a great tragedy, that there was going to be a lot of people in my position. A lot of wives, a lot of sons, a lot of grandsons. I mean, I was one of many, many people. And in one way, that was a comfort. Another way, it was much harder because I couldn't go to somebody and say, oh, my God, I lost my brother. Because any one of them could turn around and say, so did I.